When I suggested an open marriage, I thought I was taking control of my life, my desires, my marriage. I thought it would be empowering, liberating. I thought it would bring excitement back into a relationship that had grown stale. What I didn't realize, what I never could have imagined, was that my decision would shatter everything. My marriage, my family, my identity. Because my husband didn't just embrace the open marriage, he went further than I ever thought possible. He slept with both of my sisters, and by the time I found out, it was already too late to undo the damage. Let me start at the beginning. My husband James and I had been married for 7 years. We were the perfect couple, or so it seemed. From the outside, people saw us as happy, successful, and deeply in love. And for a while, that's exactly what we were. But as the years went on, something shifted. The passion that once burned so brightly between us started to fade. We weren't fighting or anything like that. It wasn't about anger or resentment. It was something quieter, more insidious. We became roommates instead of lovers. The intimacy we once shared, the spark that brought us together, was gone, and no matter what we tried, we couldn't seem to get it back. One night, after a few glasses of wine, I brought up the idea of an open marriage. It was something I had been thinking about for a while, though I hadn't said it out loud until that moment. What if we tried something new? I said, my heart pounding in my chest. What if we gave ourselves freedom to explore, to reconnect with what we want as individuals? James looked at me, his brow furrowed. You're talking about seeing other people. I nodded, the words catching in my throat. But it wouldn't mean we don't love each other. It would just mean we're honest about what we need, about what we want. For a moment, I thought he would laugh or get angry or tell me I was crazy. But instead, he surprised me. He nodded. All right, he said. If that's what you want, I'm willing to try. I felt a rush of relief, followed by excitement. This was it. Our chance to save our marriage, to reignite the spark we had lost. I told myself this was a sign of how strong our relationship was, that we could handle something like this, that it would bring us closer in the end. At first, things were fine. We set boundaries. We agreed to be honest with each other about who we were seeing, but we wouldn't share unnecessary details. We promised that our marriage would always come first. For the first few weeks, everything seemed to be working. I went on a few dates, and James seemed happy for me. He even encouraged me, saying it was nice to see me so excited again. And I noticed a change in him too. He seemed lighter, more attentive. It felt like we were finally breaking out of the rut we had been stuck in for so long. But then I started noticing things. Little things at first. James would be on his phone more often, smiling at messages he didn't want to share. He started staying out later than usual, giving vague excuses about where he'd been. When I asked him who he was seeing, he would give me short, clipped answers as if he didn't want me to know too much. I told myself not to worry. This was what we had agreed to after all. But deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The truth came out during a family gathering, of all places. My sisters, Hannah and Lily, had come over for dinner, along with a few other relatives. We were sitting around the table, laughing and reminiscing, when I noticed a strange tension between James and Hannah. At first, I thought I was imagining it, but then I saw the way he looked at her, the way she'd avoided his gaze, the way Lily kept glancing nervously between them. My stomach twisted into knots. Something wasn't right. After everyone left, I confronted James. What's going on between you and Hannah? I demanded, my voice shaking. He hesitated, his eyes darting away from mine. Nothing, he said too quickly. Don't lie to me, I snapped. I saw the way you looked at her. I'm not stupid, James. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. Fine, he said finally. I've been seeing her. But it's not what you think. It's just physical. His words hit me like a slap to the face. I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. You're sleeping with my sister? I whispered, barely able to get the words out. He didn't deny it. The betrayal was overwhelming. This wasn't just about the open marriage. This was about trust, about family. Hannah wasn't just some random woman, she was my sister. Someone I had grown up with, someone I had confided in. And James was my husband. The man I had vowed to love and trust for the rest of my life. But it didn't stop there. A few weeks later, I found out about Lily. I had been trying to piece myself back together after the betrayal with Hannah. telling myself it couldn't get worse. But then, one night, I overheard a conversation between James and Lily. They didn't know I was listening. They thought I was asleep. "I don't know if we should keep doing this," Lily said, her voice trembling. "She'll find out eventually. She already knows about Hannah," James replied, his tone calm, almost dismissive. "What difference does it make now?" My blood ran cold. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Not only had James betrayed me with one sister, but now he was sleeping with the other. The next morning, I confronted Lily. She broke down immediately, tears streaming down her face as she admitted the truth. She told me it had started after Hannah, that she hadn't meant for it to happen, but James had been so charming, so convincing. I felt like my world was crumbling around me. This wasn't just about my marriage anymore. This was about my family, the people I had trusted most in the world, and they had all betrayed me. I told James it was over. I couldn't do it anymore. The open marriage, the lies, the betrayals, it was too much. But to my surprise, he didn't try to stop me. He didn't apologize or beg for forgiveness. He just shrugged and said, "I figured this would happen eventually." His words broke something inside me. This wasn't the man I had married. This wasn't the life I had signed up for. The aftermath was messy. My relationship with my sisters was in shambles. My marriage was over, and I was left to pick up the pieces of my life, wondering how things had gone so wrong. Looking back, I realize now that the open marriage wasn't the problem. The problem was the cracks in our relationship that we had ignored for years. The open marriage was just the catalyst that brought everything to the surface. Do I regret it? Sometimes. But I also know that staying in that marriage, in that toxic, broken dynamic, would have destroyed me in the end. Sometimes the only way to move forward is to let go of the things that are holding you back.